live.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 2016 IDF Annual General Meeting. I believe we're now live to the world. Perhaps we'll just wait another 30 seconds or so to make sure that anybody who wants to watch out there in the world can make sure they've got a cup of coffee, a nice warm drink, cold drink, and then we'll be ready to go. We have a agenda. It's actually a nice presentation which will follow to give some structure to the meeting. There's a link to that on our website in the AGM news story. So that will be helpful for people to follow along at home. I'll see if I can also put that up on the screen as we talk to it. In fact, I'll see if I can do that right now.
Maybe while you're sharing the document, each of us can introduce itself quite fast, just that everybody knows who's behind the faces they watch on YouTube now. So I'm gonna start. I'm Coma, or Cyril Arnay in French. I'm the IDF president. Thank you for electing me again. And I've got a wonderful team around me, and I'm gonna let Patrick Switzer introduce himself.
Once he gets off the mute.
Sorry about that. Hello, yeah, Patrick Switzer, live from Switzerland, and downhill racer, and now director of IDF. Thank you as well for having me part of IDF.
Maga, can you introduce yourself?
Yep, Maga McGuinney here from Australia, director of IDF, downhill skater, and organizer.
Thank you, Maga. And Dave Robertson.
Yeah, David Robertson here, formerly of ASRA, Australian Skateboard Racing Association. You'll often see me at some events, organise a few World Cups in Australia. You'll probably see me a few times this year.
And last but not least, Barry Plasman.
Sorry. Hi, yeah, that's me. I'm the guy with the lousy face right now who's being responsible for the website and does no sleep, so I look a bit shitty. But yeah, that's me. Unofficial board member.
Okay, and I'm Colin Beck. I'm the secretary of the IDF, and also, like Robbo, originally one of the founders of ASRA. So I think we're ready to start. I'll get that screen share back up again. Okay, so welcome again to the Annual General Assembly of the IDF. We're going to talk about the 2015 Annual Report, the 2015 Financial Report, the 2016 Budget, that is what we're going to spend our money on this year, the 2016 race schedule, and all the news we've got coming up this year. So just to look back over last year, 2015, some of our objectives. The rankings are really one of the main things that we do, and it's very important that they reflect as much as possible the performance of all the riders, and not just their availability to travel or their financial means to do that. So we want them to be fair and to really give a good indication of who the fastest and best riders are in a year. We also want to increase the competitive selection around World Cup status. We don't award that many races to be World Cup status. We want it to be fairly elite, and so we want all the race organisers out there to be competing with each other to create the very best events they can to get that coveted World Cup status. And another of our objectives was to create more regional opportunities for riders to race, and we did one big change last year that we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, what we did to reach those objectives, we reduced the number of World Cups and we improved the balance between them and World qualifying. We limited the number of World Cups per continent. That's something that we've really done for 2016. In 2015, we had quite a large number of World Cups, at least in North America. That's been cut back, I think, to just 2 per continent. So with only 2 World Cups per continent, it's really forcing riders to travel to 3 continents if they want to get the full quota of World Cups. And we're changing the number of races taken into account into the world rankings, and also tailoring the specific ratios for certain categories. One of the things that was brought to our attention was that for the minor categories where there are less competitors, we needed to increase the number of points that those riders got in world qualifiers. And the big one that really it gives a great incentive for regional races is we implemented continental rankings towards the end of last year and awarded continental championships. And that is going to be, I think, a really big thing for this year. Last year we just implemented it right at the end of the year, only because it was only at the end of the year that we got the technology that enabled us to manage the complexity of having all those ranking systems for all those continents across all those categories. So I guess we should just take a moment to congratulate our 2015 world champions in open skateboarding. It was Carlos Pachau. In juniors, it was Alex Charlson. In women's, Emily Pross. And in both street luge and classic luge, Mikel Etchegaray. So very worthy champions. And our continental champions, again, as I said, we only introduced this right at the end of last year. So for most of the continents, their racing was over by the time we actually introduced this. So they weren't really able to think about it and plan for it in the way that would have been optimal. Of course, that's going to be different this year because everybody now knows about it. But for last year in South America, I'm going to struggle perhaps with some of these names. In the Opens, Mateus Brandao Cavinato. In the Women's, Melissa Brogni. In Juniors, Rodrigo Zuznaga. In Street Luge, Leonardo Verardi. And in Classic Luge, Bruno Vieira. In Europe, for the Opens, it was Kieran Ilma. In Women's, Marie Bugur. In Juniors, Vojta Zasek. In Street Luge, Michael Claessens. And in Classic Luge, Mikel Etchegaray. In Asia, which also includes Australia and New Zealand. In the Opens, it was Robert McWhinney. In the Women's, Alyssa Ma. In Juniors, it was a tie between Tyron Knight and Charles John Ravian. And we had no Street Luge or Classic Luge races in Asia last year. In North America, in the Opens, Kevin Reimer. In the Women's, Emily Pross. In the Juniors, Alex Charlson. In Street Luge, Darius Eskandar. And in Classic Luge, Chris McBride. Congratulations to our first ever IDF Continental Champions. Just a brief look back over our 2015 events. We had 8 World Cups and 13 World Qualifiers. So you can see that the ratio is a little adjusted from 2014, where there were more World Cups. We're getting back to the number of World Cups we had in 2013, but the number of World Qualifiers are increasing. And that's the general trend that we're wanting to have, I guess. So we'll now have a quick look at our membership. At the beginning of this year, we had 1,902 active members from 60 different countries. Since then, we've done a little work on our membership database and weeded out around about 100 duplicates. So we're actually now down to about 1,800 members. So you can see how our a sort of rough overview here of how our membership and the number of races and the number of World Cups have changed over the 3 years that we've been in existence. There's just one small error there. We had 8 World Cups in 2015, not 7. So now it's time to turn to the money side of things with our 2015 financial report. So I'm going to throw to Dave Robertson. Normally it would be Lee Cation, who is our treasurer, who would be doing this, but he's unfortunately unable to make it today. So Dave Robertson, can you talk us through the money?
So looking at our general profit and loss statement, the IDF drew in $69,000 of income last year, split across around $50,000 in membership fees and around $20,000 or just under of sanction fees. Our expenses ran last year at $46,800, so we delivered a surplus of $22,900, which might note I think is the first time the IDF has been in surplus. Certainly over the last couple of years we've had some fairly significant establishment expenses, and the IDF borrowed a lot of that establishment money from directors, and we've spent the last few years paying that off, so the IDF's now in probably a stronger financial position than what we've been since the beginning. And we certainly have some more assets at our disposal. But just going through our operating expenses, that's probably the more important bit. We spent $537 on various promotional marketing things. We haven't really focused dramatically on that, but it may be something that we look at further over the coming year. With awards and trophies, this year, in the 2015 year, the IDF delivered prize money to our world champions. It's the first year that the international body has done this. It's something that's been spoken about for a long time, and we felt that to be certainly a serious player in international sport, that our top riders, our top people who market our sport and who spend such a significant amount of their time and their money in certainly promoting our scene and promoting events should be rewarded for all their work, and that's what we did. We gave out $8,000 in prize money. The less interesting thing, bank fees, $227. You could probably combine that with our PayPal fees. So we incurred expenses of around $3,200 in banking fees, and a further $1,600 in foreign exchange losses. That just relates to obviously the many currencies that the IDF deals in. From time to time we win that, from time to time we lose. Freight and courier was $5,800. Most of that expense relates to moving the timing system around the world. It's a significant piece of kit and weighs about 70 kilograms. So every time you see Colin or myself or Coma or somebody else on a plane, there's fairly significant excess baggage related to that. So office expenses were only $70. Most of the IDF directors cover their own expenses for that and don't tend to charge that back to the IDF. Printing and stationery was $275. The timing equipment line, $3,600. That relates to certainly acquiring some new radio communications for our timing system. Being the big piece of kit it is and the places we take it to, it requires some money to both upkeep and upgrade it and to make it more and more reliable. We've certainly had some issues in the prior year, in the 2014 year, which we believe we significantly dealt with last year, and had a fairly consistent record in that area. Airfares was $17,500. certainly relates to getting IDF officials to every World Cup event, occasionally to a WQS event, if it's both deemed necessary and or if the event organiser feels that the IDF can really bring value to them by being there on the ground. Bundled into that travel allowance is $16,500. That may relates to meal allowances and ad hoc things like that. Travel expenses are domestic travel expenses. Generally things like car hire, domestic flights when we're on various continents, moving between different events. Website server expenses are $553. We're relatively light. That's likely to increase this year with our new website and our new member management systems. And overall, that delivered expenses of $46,800. So we delivered a net surplus of $22,945. We're both comfortable with that, and we think that's something that around that figure is probably a prudent thing to have as the sort of world body moves forward into some exciting new challenges. We're certainly going to, just to carry on to the next line of thing, at the beginning of this year, in the near future, we'll need to spend a decent amount of money on the timing system again, more related to transponders. All those times where you see us running around end of event chasing transponders, that's because they're unbelievably expensive, and that's members' money that pays for that, and we take that pretty seriously. So we'll be spending a series of thousands of dollars replacing 50 transponders at $80 a pop, so that we're well equipped to cover all the events this year. So out of that surplus, we're also looking at putting a bit of investment in some professional photo finish equipment. There's certainly some suggestions that have been bandied around about how we can do that. But for us, it's important to be not to replace a certain system with another system that may in itself have unreliability. We need to be consistent at every event, and to do that, we need a system that is consistent at every event and is delivered at every event. So we're looking to invest somewhere around $5,000 in a photo system that will integrate with both our transponders and our rider lists. We're hoping to institute that in the near future, certainly some way through this year. In discussing surpluses again, we'd like the IDF to certainly have a minimum of $10,000 in the bank for various redundancies and things that may be encountered throughout the racing season, or for various opportunities that may arrive with things like our discussions with the IOC and various other international bodies. At the end of this meeting, we're going to put together a poll to look at what the remaining funds that we have for this year and what we project that we'll have consistently over the next few years, and generally poll our members just to see where they would like us to focus our resources, both in our manpower and our financial resources, which, whilst are limited, we certainly would love input on that and would like to respond to what riders, which are our members, and the people that we work for, what they would like us to do with that. So you will see that over the coming days. We'll put a news story up on that. It will be put out to all the membership of the IDF, and we'd certainly value you giving us some input. Looking towards the budget for 2016, this is a general budget. Obviously budgets change, but it's certainly something that we're aiming at. As you can see, is it up on the screen share? Yep. Scroll down a little bit. Okay. So we projected our membership to take in around $47,000, around $20,000 in sanction fees. There's a general breakup there regarding expenses, which really are the significant expense. That, along with our timing equipment, which is critical to what we do, and critical to the professional projection we put on our sport, to certainly the rest of the population. And you'll see that divvied up in certainly by various tours. The Asian tour has grown this year. That's something that we're really excited about. We think that's a development area that the IDF should be in. So we'll be certainly running with an expanded Asian tour. There will be some further expenses to that. The ATA Carnet just relates to our customs documentation to bring our equipment around the world. So the NORAM tour, Euro tour, South American tour, we've budgeted similar amounts there. We're hoping to get, where we can and where it's available, more IDF officials at these events, both to assist the event organisers, which is certainly the goal of us, of the IDF, to do as much as we can there, but also to be there to have consistency for riders who will see the same frameworks at each event, regardless of which continent you're at, to maintain that level of professionalism. The IDF will be producing some trophies and medals for our champions, not just our world champions, but our continental champions again. We're really excited about doing that, rewarding those people. We think they need that recognition, not just at the world level, but certainly at the continental level. It's important for a lot of these, for our members. It's important to the countries that they're from, and we're happy to promote that. In that line is the 50 transponders. As you can see, it costs $8,500. It's very expensive. So next time you're at an event and you see your buddy still got his transponder on at the end, just realise that that's $80 coming out of your pocket. So we really appreciate it if you can get those back to us as often as you can. That allows us to have more funds to spend on more important areas, and certainly some new areas that we can send some resources to. Nothing too interesting about the shipping. That's another. Our freight bills tends to be relatively large. Again, that just relates to moving our equipment around the world. Website and hosting will be a little bit more expensive, and we're intending to put a little bit more money down on marketing this year, with the expected surplus of around $16,500. We think that's a nice balanced amount. It's not more than we expect, but it's an amount that keeps us on a footing for the long term.
I'll make a few comments, Robbo, if you don't mind.
Yeah, carry over, please.
Just to inform riders, a transponder costs $70, so it's a big money, and we really hope that people will be aware this year that it's your money that we are wasting when you lose a transponder where you don't return it, as you said. The finish line camera should be around 5,000. That's why we have this big amount of money. Overall, the budget is a bit pessimistic somehow. We really hope to reduce the cost of traveling as we try as much as we can to send people from within a continent. For Eurotour, it will be normally only European IDF rep that will be present on the events, apart from the times where none of us are available. As you know, we are all volunteers and we have jobs, and it's hard for us to take like 5 weeks off to travel through Europe or any other continent. So that's why sometimes we can have some extra expenses because we have to bring someone like Colin or Robbo from Australia. Of course, if we would have more maneuver, more volunteers in each continent, those costs could be reduced quite strictly, and the extra money could be used in some more valuable stuff and subjects. So that's an open proposal for anybody who wish to invest a little bit of his time for the community, as we do every day. Please just contact us if you feel you could help us on races. It's not about the timing system only, but all the different areas like the predict zone, like taking requests from riders or helping with schedules with the organizers locally. And I can tell you there are thousands of tasks we can assign to some volunteer people who would help, and it's in favor of the continuity and the sustainability of the IDF. It's a volunteer movement, and we always need new blood. So please make yourself known to us if you wish to help the community. Thank you. Robo, back to you.
Okay, look, I might pass that over to probably to Colin now again, where he can carry that over.
All right, I'll go back to our agenda here so I can see what's next. So, okay, we've talked about the 2016 budget. So now the 2016 race schedule. It's almost set in stone. There were a few problems in getting all the dates and events worked out, particularly in South America, but we're just about there. So we've got 7 World Cups and 12 World Qualifiers. There might even be a late race slipping into South America a bit later on in the year. But this year it looks like the schedule's a lot more geographically sensible than last year, a lot less chopping and changing from one place to another, a bit smoother and easier for traveling. So we're pretty happy with it. Also this year we've had a few new rules that affect the racing. A big one, Street Luge and Classic Luge, have been merged into the one category called Luge. We've got a new Masters division, a whole new category, and the cutoff for that is you have to be turning 35 or not be turning 35 in the year. We mentioned before we've got a slightly new point system for World Qualifiers in Juniors, Women's, Masters and Luge, where they get a few more points than they used to for World Qualifiers only. And the world rankings, the number of races that are included have been changed a little. In the Open Skateboard, it's now the best 7 results with a maximum of 5 World Cups. And for all the other categories, it's the best 6 results with a maximum of 4 World Cups. And the reason why it's fewer for the non-open skateboarding categories is because, in general, the people in those categories are less able to travel as widely. There's a bit less sponsorship money for those categories, and so we want to we want to make it so that we have the best riders winning rather than just the people with the most money to travel. In continental races, it says there that all races count, but in fact it's only the best 5 of your events in the continent. That's the theory. In practice, because there's very rarely more than 5 races in the continent, it really is true that all races will count. Okay, questions and answers. We spoke a few minutes ago about how we would put a poll together to ask our members some questions. We're going to do that in the next couple of days, and we'll post it up on our website and on Facebook and ask our members to give us some opinions on what we should do, particularly with the surplus money that we've created. You know, we're getting a surplus every year, and it's an open question as to what's the best way to spend that. So it looks like that's bringing us pretty much to the end of our 3rd ever AGM. I want to thank everybody for attending and for making it this far. It's been a pretty good 3 years, and we're already well underway into our 4th. So now I'd just like to turn it over to any of the other board members to see if they have any other closing words. Anybody?
No,
Are there any questions?
If you can hear me,
Sorry. Yeah.
if I let Robo check that we have questions. I just wanted to say a few words. I really wanted to thank a lot Ben Plasman, who spent like hours and hours and didn't sleep much in the last 2 weeks for all the work he's done for the new website. We hope it's going to ease you the way you register to a race and know when your membership is expired or not. Feel free to contact us if you meet any trouble with the website. As any new project, we may have some bugs and we are ready to deal with them. It wouldn't be surprising, I would say, and it would even be normal. But just tell us if you encounter any problem. We will have our races open for registration during the night for the first Asian races, and on Sunday for Almatrade priority registration. We hope this Almatrade race is going to be a real success. Some people must ask themselves why it's not a World Cup. We have explained it a few times already, but I can say it again. It's a new team organizing the event in coordination with Stefan Reisch, of course, but it's a new team. It's a new location as well, and we didn't have agreement with them early enough in the season to make things happen in a way, but we want to have some kind of turnover on the World Cup status within the available races, and we will see for next year who are going to be the World Cups. But yeah, we're really excited by the track and the quality of the organization that Stefan Reisch and his new friends have shown up so far. So this is for me. I want, of course, to thank all the IDF board members. As I said a bit before, they are all volunteers, and you may have seen Robo, B, and Colin, especially in Lee, really hard working on events. I'd like you riders to go and say hi whenever you meet them on an event, and tell them if you appreciate what they do. If you don't, I will do them personally. Thank you for attending, and I'm going to let the others speak. And we hope that somehow skateboarding will be in the Olympics soon. We will have the final answer, not for downhill skateboarding, but for skateboarding in July in the Rio IOC meeting. And we will, of course, let you know what are the last discussions we are aware of, as I regularly attend IOC meetings in Lausanne. We hope to have some news soon. Thank you, and I'll let my other friends for the last words. Colin's going to say something.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions coming in from some attendees, so I'd like to deal with those. From Max Dubler, he's asked, have you guys considered requiring a deposit for transponders? For instance, you could hand over $20 when you get your transponder, and you get it back when you return it. To answer that, yes, we have considered it, and it's something we still might do. I mean, we haven't ruled it out. The thing that we're concerned about is just the administrative difficulty of having to take in that much money and giving change and so on. I mean, at an event with 200 or 250 people, that's a fairly significant amount of money. And I'm not sure all the riders would have cash on them, and it also makes a transponder return difficult. You'd need a dedicated staff member or 2 staff members even to manage giving the money back. So yeah, it would require quite a bit of extra manpower. But it's only something we haven't ruled out. I don't know if any of the other board members have got any other opinions on that.
Well, it's certainly it's a significant expense that we incur. Well, we don't incur, that the riders incur. That's why you see us so ferociously chasing these transponders, to protect your money. There may be some other way to do that and to reduce that cost. We're certainly open to every suggestion about it. We don't know whether we put that the onus on the IDF to chase that, or we put it on the event organizer, or we do a combination of that, and we pay them the event organizer a small bonus if they retrieve all of them for us. We're certainly open to any combination of ideas. So certainly send us your messages and your comments, your questions. We always want to do things better. And
okay, Max has a follow-up. Max has a follow-up alternative idea. Instead of cash, when a person returns their transponder, they get a free sticker, a free beer, a free small item as a incentive to return their transponder, which, yeah, we could do it. I mean, at the moment, the way it generally works is that we give the person on the truck who's driving the riders up to the top, a great big bag and say, hey, when people eliminated from the race, just throw your transponder in the bag. So it really requires hardly any, almost zero manpower to do the collection. So even just to hand out the sticker is going to require somebody to do that. We're always trying to limit the amount of manpower that we need, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, if it has a positive effect and that stops us spending $8,500 in 1 year on new transponders, maybe that's something we need to look at.
Yeah, I mean, the other idea is that now that we have a better member database, it is possible for us to actually track who loses a transponder. And we could, in fact, just, if a person doesn't return one at their next event, say they don't get another transponder until they give us $70 or whatever it costs. That requires a bit of work in sort of administrative overhead in checking up at the end of every race which transponders have been returned and which haven't, but that's certainly possible. So I'll go on to, we have one more question from Abdul Madsen from Malaysia. He says, if races are going to fight to be a World Cup, can the IDF require them to give out trophies, at least for IDF categories? I think that's probably a pretty reasonable suggestion. Does anybody else have any idea on that?
Yes, one comment. We already asked the World Cups to guarantee a minimum prize money and force the organizers to respect that rule. We feel we can't go really too far on that side anyway, and that's why we decided to offer some prize money at the end of the year for the champions. But yes, offering trophies for each IDF category on events seems a really legitimate demand. And I think, yeah, we can put that in the contracts that we ask our organizers to sign and respect. And yeah, thanks for the proposal. I think it's a good one and something that should happen on every single race you attend as a rider. I thought it was kind of the case already, but I guess that if Abdil mentions it, it's that it happened sometimes that there was no trophy given to the champions. So we will be more careful about it. Do we have some other questions?
That seems to be it for questions. So unless anybody has any more to say.
Well, then let's close this third AGM. We will publish the poll for the best use of the surplus money in the coming days, I would say. And we wish you all a great season. Take no risk, but take enough risk to win races. That would be my final word. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody, and thank you again for attending.